You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Super excited about having you guys join in with us. Hey, guys, we have a special guest on the line. We have another great interview that's coming up with none other than the man, Britt Dowd. Britt, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Brian, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm living the dream in Michigan, man. It's snowing at the time of this recording. we were out all night plowing snow. Took a quick cat nap, and here we go. You know, I'm on the podcast with you, man. And
back at it. Let's give your listeners some content. Well, it's 28 and sunny here in Kansas City, so it feels like springtime after what we've been through lately.
Amen.
Good weather for us.
Amen to that. No, it's I'm excited about spring. By the time we probably get this podcast out there, we're already probably pushing our fertilizer spreaders and back to mowing, right? So,
exactly.
So for a lot of folks that maybe don't know you, why don't we do this? Let's why don't you give like maybe 30, 60 seconds, maybe just a quick snapshot for folks that maybe don't know you about who you are, where you're from, and all that fun stuff, just to give some context.
All right, elevator speech. Hop on the elevator with me. My name is Britt Dowd. I live in Paola, Kansas, just south of KCK area. Run a company called Green Again Lawn. We specialize in fertilizing, weed control, aeration seeding, and pesticide work. Been running that since the fall of 2012. So do that, and then I am also the host of a show podcast as well called the Lawn Care Leaders Podcast. Pretty similar to your show, where we're just trying to interview guests and document some of our day-to-day experiences to add value to lawn care business owners and people in the green industry. Totally,
man. Well, dude, selfishly, I'm excited about having you on the podcast. I've actually listened to a couple of your podcasts, well, a lot of your podcasts, but especially the ones with you and your story. And you're a hustler, dude. You guys are in a growth mode right now with your company. You run, a really decent sized company. So I was listening to you actually last fall, and I said, man, if I'm going to be putting together like a list of folks that I want to interview, selfishly, I definitely want to get you on the podcast because you were really dropping
Brian, that means
some
a
bombs.
lot. Hey, that means a lot to me. So you're telling me that you put together a dream team and I'm on it. I'm blushing over here, man, because you're big time. Let's be honest. To all your listeners, Brian is the man. He's big time. Secretly, everybody wants to reach out to you, DM you, have Chick-fil-A with you. You're awesome. Well, so, what do you want? You want me to give you like the origin story briefly, or?
Well, let's do this. Two things. One, I feel like I owe you $20 for saying something nice about me, and so checks in the mail. Let's do this. Before we jump into it, let's hear from the announcements, and then for sure, we're gonna unpackage your whole story.
At Exmark, we've poured decades of leading-edge engineering and old-fashioned work ethic into our Laser Z, the pioneering commercial zero-turn rider more landscape pros trust. So now you can experience cut quality, performance, comfort, durability, and reliability beyond your wildest dreams. Stop by your local dealer or visit exmark.com to experience an Exmark Laser Z and the attractive financing offers available now.
All right. So as we jump into it really quick, just wanted to say thank you to a lot of you guys that have been leaving those 5-star reviews. We really appreciate that. Really helps the podcast get serviced. And of course, if you're listening to Britt's podcast, same thing, hit 5-star reviews. We really, really appreciate that. So let's jump into it. So Britt, you're in Kansas City. And by the way, did you guys not just win the Super Bowl and all that mess? Is that you guys?
Oh, yeah, bud. Oh, yeah. we just took it to the house. We've got Mahomes.
That's
Kelsey.
Awesome.
We've got a couple decent offensive players.
Yeah, man. Congratulations.
World Series, awesome. World Series and a Super Bowl. So
wow,
I mean, we're big market out here now.
There goes your real estate prices, right? No, I'm just having
exactly. There goes my season tickets I was wanting.
Yeah, they just doubled too, right? So
yeah.
Well, okay, so let's do this. Totally, dude. I want to get into your story. I want to hear the Green Again Lawn story. So if you want to camp out here for 5 or 10 minutes, you can take it away. So how did you get started in the green industry? Where did you start your business from? Was it something that you just did from as a kid in high school, like a lot of us, or something that you chose to get into, maybe out of college? Why don't you break down that whole story and let everybody know what you guys got going on?
All right. Perfect, man. Perfect. So I started like a lot of our listeners. Asked my dad for some money, and he was like, no. go get a job or go push mow a lawn.
Mm-hmm.
So I borrowed his push mower and his weed eater, and I borrowed my mom's purple minivan and started push mowing lawns, and that's how I got into business, honestly, and kept doing it. As a high school kid, I just did it because it gave me cash, and I liked doing things on the weekend, and my brother and I started to do it and dabble in it. Well, we ended up with only like 45 accounts, I think, by the end of high school, and ended up, I played basketball all through high school, went to college and played basketball for a couple of years, and kept my mowing accounts the whole time. I really loved the ability to make that quick cash. I loved the ability to control my schedule around it, and started kind of building some entrepreneurial tendencies with that. Okay. And I just really loved the ability to not have a ceiling, so to speak, on the job I was in. Because I did take those typical high school jobs where you're getting paid $8 an hour.
Right.
And I was like, well, I can do this over here. So that's the origin of it. And then as I got towards the latter part of college, I realized, okay, I may want to do this full time. And it just so happened that the girl I was dating at the time, her dad, and she's now my wife. So
cool.
Not talking about past ex-girlfriends here.
I was like, tread lightly, my friend. No, I was kidding.
Exactly.
Never know who listens.
Walk the line, bud. Walk the line. So I was dating Brooke, and her dad had been in the green industry for 25 plus years.
Oh, wow.
He had worked at nurseries. He went to Oklahoma State for horticulture. At that time, he was the one of the head sales reps for a chemical company.
Okay.
So anyways, after I got out of school, I just kind of married the two. I kept my lawn mowing and landscaping, and he started teaching me the skill set of being a chemical applicator. Okay. And so for those of you out there that don't know that side of things, it's just like True Green, Scott's Lawn Care. Yep. That's what we specialize in.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
perfect.
Married those two, and we started Green Again in the fall of 2012. And over my plan was over the next 2 to 3 years to phase out mowing. Mm-hmm. I wanted to get into the turf management side only, and try to scale that and be viewed as a major brand, major player in the Kansas City market.
Wow.
So been doing that since 2012.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Like for real, we have so much stuff that we're gonna package that I don't even care if it's just a repeat of your last podcast with you telling your story, because dude, your story is so rich. You got a lot. What people don't know behind the scenes, the velocity of what you're growing your company right now. I can just extract really good information from people as I listen to what they say, who they are, what they're doing, and just get a snapshot. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy's got a lot of spinning plates behind the scenes. And like, I like people that are in the hunt, right? And so, and by the way, funny story. When I did our live event last fall, I had two guys there. One was Jason Creel with Lawn Care Life. He talks about a lot with fertilizer and weed control and all that fun stuff. And another guy was Caleb Baldwin, and he talked a lot about brick pavers and all that mess. Well, the reason people at first were like, well, why are you having these two guys in? And I said, well, number one, they're both great dudes, but number two, so many folks start with mowing and they see potentially a larger profit margin, or they just want to cross market their business and services, right? And so a lot of guys that mow get into fert. A lot of guys that mow want to get into light landscaping, then hardscaping, which is great. And so I kind of classify you in like that Jason Creel. Like you are an amazing asset out there for weed control and fertilization. So of course we'll plug your socials by the time the show is done. But if folks want to continue on their journey of learning this stuff, you're a great resource
exactly.
Amongst other parts too.
I tell my listeners this. I mean, don't be strangers. They can find us on Instagram. Just look up Green Again Lawn or Lawn Care Leaders Podcast. But and I prefer to have them do that rather than me give them information on the show, right? Because I can get more detailed and hop on a phone call with them. So if they've got technical questions, chemical questions, square footage, app ratios, I'm an open book.
Dude,
There are no secrets here.
I'm telling you that. So that's one of the reasons I hate on the show, for real. Because I know you're a giver. I know you're a nice guy. You're a family man. And so I was like, wow, like if I can get another fertilizer guy out there and another great resource, it'll be really good. So let me ask you this.
If you don't mind, let me interject here too.
Sure.
I think guys that want to just mow, that's fine. But I also think those guys need to know their numbers. A lot of guys that just mow don't know their profit margins at the end of the year because they're very, very slim.
Right.
So if you're a guy out there looking to just mow, it's you and your son or you and a couple other guys, that's great. But make sure you're profitable because the majority of companies that are growing, scaling, adding value to team members, have layers of leadership, use mowing as a loss leader. And that means they get their foot in the door with a client, they get the mowing job, knowing their end goal is to upsell something that actually has some profit margins. And that's why a lot of times you see guys phase out of it because they're getting into hardscape jobs, landscape jobs, chemical jobs, whatever it may be, or the commercial side, because that's where the professionalism is found.
Sure.
And whenever you add professionalism, technical skills, where there might be a fear mindset from the consumer standpoint, that all adds value, which adds profit.
Dude,
so
that's
think
clutch.
about that if you're out there. So.
Well, I mean that's why. I mean we're at this point, if people are continuing to listen to the podcast, like we've done quite a few of them now, believe it or not, with especially with other interviews, talking with folks about knowing your numbers and till they're blue in the face. So that's something that I totally echo on this podcast.
Good.
We've went down that rabbit hole with a couple other guests, and I think know your numbers is really going to start sounding cliche in 2020, but the reality is it's incredibly important. It's the cornerstone for your business. And by the way, it's funny story. I interview a Britt Dowd, and he's got a growing company. And what's the first thing he says out of the mouth is, you got to know your numbers, you got to know your margins, you got to know what's going on the back end. So we're definitely going to dive deep in that, because I know you probably learned some things the last 18 to 24 months that have opened up your eyes. I'm sure you got some some failures maybe too, some candid stories. So okay, so let me ask you this. Piggybacking off what we were just talking about. So you're going through college, you're getting a little bit older, you're probably like late 20s, maybe early 30s. You're primarily a mowing business, or how did you pivot into a fertilizer company, or what was your reason for pivoting into a fertilizer company? Was it some of the things you just alluded to?
Yeah, it was really, the fact that I had my father-in-law guiding me during those first years, I probably would have mowed a lot longer. But I was luckily, praise the Lord, I was wise enough to listen and heed his advice. He had seen numerous companies go out of business trying to only mow or just barely scraping by. And so it was really just bringing on good mentors. I had 2 to 3 guys that I would constantly hit up throughout the week, bounce ideas off of. And so having my father-in-law there telling me, hey, you really need to start gearing towards a more professional service, and then that way I can start branding it and adding profit. That's why I started heading down that road, I guess, if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, for sure. Again, if I talk about it till I'm blue in the face about route density with mowing, and you know what, we have a maintenance business. Not 90% of our revenue, but I'd say 70% of our summer business is mowing, and we clean up. But in fact, funny story. Here's an analogy or a visual. Literally just this morning on Instagram, somebody shoots me a message from one of my photos that I put up there about my truck, and on the dash they saw that I had 27,000 on the odometer, and the guy goes, 27,000 miles on a 17, which is 3 years already, and he's like, dude, that's not even 10,000 miles a year. I go, #route density, that's
exactly.
like dude, and by the way, that's using it for everything, and that's some pretty low mileage is what I'm trying to say. So I can totally echo with what you're trying to say. So let's talk about the timeline. We got the service timeline and the evolution of the service that you're offering and starting to go into. Where's the business now, and what have you guys experienced in the last 36 months? Where was the idea to go all in, create a 7-figure business? You were quoting some numbers, and you don't have to if you don't want to. It's totally up to you with whatever you want to share. But you guys have experienced a lot of growth. So let's talk about that, and maybe afterwards we'll maybe talk about some pain points and some other fun topics that I'm sure can really relate to the audience.
Awesome. Okay, so early stages. Let me just go back real quick. Early stages of the career. It was just my wife and I. We were literally, I would hop out, do the application, send the invoice. She was answering emails. My wife was going door to door knocking, leaving brochures, leaving quotes. And we fast forward. We did that for 3 or 4 years, and then we had our first daughter, and we decided to have her stay at home. We now have 2 daughters.
Oh, cool.
She's still at home, a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. So she's home with them, and we hired our first guy back in 2016.
Okay.
We went from, I think, like 300 accounts down to 280. We lost some over the spring.
Okay.
And then over the next few years, we went up to 550. We went up to 950 to where last year we had just under 1,700 accounts.
Wow.
And
good for you.
We're set to scale again. We're reinvesting in more growth. We will be at 10 team members outside myself this year. So including me, we'll have 11 of us in production. And our goal is to hit 2,800 accounts and 400 tree and shrub accounts.
Wow. Good for you guys.
So I will tell you the goal always was to let's see how big we can get and let's see how good we can be. I want to be the best in the Kansas City area. That's just kind of my personality. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. When I was training for basketball, it was never good enough. I was always the most competitive person in the room. We had one story. My mom tells the story all the time because she thinks it's funny. You know those parachutes like football players used to run?
Yeah.
So my personality is just like that wasn't good enough. So my brother and I strapped one of those on. We also had like the jump soles that we strapped on our feet, along with ankle weights and a weighted vest.
The weighted vest guy.
Exactly. I was that guy. I was that gym guy.
For sure.
We were so weighed down we couldn't even get enough speed to inflate the parachute. But anyways, that's the visual of my life. It's like I always want to go above and beyond. I always want to do more than the other guy is doing. I always want to do more than we're getting paid for from our clients. And so we've just taken that mindset. Now, so sometimes that's a negative thing. Sometimes it's a good thing. I think to an extent in the first couple of years, you have to have that mindset because it is just as much action as possible crammed into a short amount of time to get those clients.
Yep.
For us here in the Kansas City area, we have a 10-week window where people care about lawn care and they sign up for it. And so we just take as much action at a frantic pace in a small window to make sure we hit those sales. And as we grow and scale, I think the pain point for me, you asked, where are we now?
Yeah.
So we're in a comfortable position. We're making good profit margins. One of the pain points I'm going through is, I'm not always taking those action steps. I'm not always the guy knocking on the doors. I'm not always the guy spraying the lawn. I'm moving in business from doing to both delegating and making more decisions. And actually, I read a book that talked about that. It's Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. He talks about doing, deciding, delegating, and designing. And so I'm kind of on that continuum to where, I want to get into an ownership role where I'm designing my future. I'm casting the vision for our team, and I'm really more guiding the ship. And it's harder said than done, man, because it's a lot easier. Though you're sweating and working hard, it's a lot easier to go out and spray 20 lawns than it is to sit down and design and plan and outline and do projections. And that's one of the huge pain points I'm going through right now.
Well, sure. In fact, funny story. I was listening. We did a podcast not too long ago with Corey Ballard. A friend of mine. His name is Troy Clogg. He's regionally one of the largest by me. Massive company, Troy Clogg and Associates. And we were just having but between both guys, I've had some really candid conversations with them, talking about, as their organization grows and their company grows, they're both sales driven personalities, right? Just probably like you. And you got to make it happen. Well, and they totally echo what you were just saying, that as the organization grows, your role changes, and both of them, like I was talking to Corey, and he's like, now I'm in HR meetings, and now I'm in health. We're talking about healthcare and HR and benefit packages, and he's like, we're talking about things that are just not usually his strength zone, or Troy was talking about, those aren't things that I started a business for, and in fact, I'm trying to get out of those roles because there's way more highly qualified people. Most of guys like me and you and probably them are more sales, more ops, more that kind of stuff. And funny story too. At our live event, we had a guy named Josh Latimer come in, and he's a service industry, kind of a business coach, and I wouldn't say consultant, but he's helped. He's got his claim to fame was in power washing. But Josh talks about those 5 levels of going through a business, right? Where in the beginning, you're the guy on the truck, like you were just talking about, whether you're mowing or FERT, makes no difference. Then it's like you, and then you got like 2 crews, and you're just kind of like spinning 2 plates, right? And then like that third phase is, maybe you're in a sales role, keeping those 2 guys going. And then the fourth phase, you got a little company, little organization, could be 10, could be 50, employees. And then phase 5 is kind of like that Kiyosaki, that big business that, you're an owner, and you got a lot of people in different leadership positions and key positions. And whether you're there or not, arguably, 2 things should happen. 1, the business should continue on. And number 2, it should continue to grow. And that's huge. And so where would you say you're in that timeline? And then what's your personal opinion or experience, again, kind of talking about these pain points or challenges or things that you didn't really think about as you go through these phases? Is any relatable stories as you go through this transition and growing a larger company? Because I'm just curious personally.
Yeah, I'm sure I can find some good stories for you. I think I want to go back a little though. I think to add value to your audience, people need to figure out what they want. Because viewing business on Instagram, viewing business on social media, talking to other people, you can look, you're looking through rose-colored glasses. We both know what business is actually like. Mm-hmm. It's very rewarding, but it's very stressful at times, and you carry a heavy burden. I think if you've just started out, or you're getting ready to start, or you're in your 2nd, 3rd, 4th year, you need to truly know what do you want for your family out of what you're getting ready to do for the next 10 years. And I think that's true for any career, but nobody does it. They spend more time picking out a car than they do planning out their career and their future. What you need to do is say, do I want to be a one-man shop? And if so, what do I need to do to be the best I can be? Do I want to have one other crew and then stop there? There's nothing wrong with either of these, by the way. Right. Do I want to scale all the way out and keep going and sell my company in 5 years, sell my company in 10 years, and do something? Whatever it is, you need to know. Because for me, my answers are going to be different to your audience. For me, yes, like your example, I want to work my way out of the current role I'm in. But my goal is, I have a couple goals. I want to be on Lawn and Landscape's top 100 list, and I also want to give back to my team. And I know that if I put a ceiling on my business, they're going to have a ceiling on their career. I would prefer to work myself out of every role and have multiple levels of leadership, have multiple locations, because I know for my team and my guys, they're going to have better lives, better careers, and provide for their families in a better way because of that.
So that winning attitude, I think, is a lot of I get out of you. That winning attitude.
Yeah. Yes. But I want to go back to, there's nothing wrong with having 2 crews. You just need to figure out which role you like. And a lot of people want to be in the field, and there's nothing wrong with that. So you need to structure your business in a way that you can be at the intersection of your greatest strength and your greatest talent, but also you're happy in that role. So right. It's different for everybody. I don't know if I'm communicating that thoroughly, but
dude, you're totally right on base. That's super helpful. For real. I mean, it sounds maybe a little bit remedial, but honestly, it's a truth bomb. Like my friend Troy, I was at his major warehouse, or his headquarters, and he's like, you know what, Brian? He goes, one thing I'd always love to tell people is that bigger does not always mean better. He's like, He's like, we have our own issues and internal problems and things that we got to work on. And, everybody sees like the big company, the big guys. And, I had Corey on the phone, on an interview, and Corey's like, dude, there's years we lost a lot of money. He's like,
Yep.
He goes, there's years that we couldn't do that for more than 1 or 2 or 3, or it was, sayonara. And,
Yeah.
and I think one thing that's really helped me in business too is, just to reiterate with what you're just saying, like a lot of guys are like, I just want 50 more accounts. I just want 20 new this. I just want 2 new crews. I just want this. And I'm like,
Yep.
you're kind of working the equation backwards. Like,
Yeah.
figure out the lifestyle you want to live, figure out what it's going to take to support that. Then like just do the math equation. It's really, really simple. Like, solve for X. And and I feel like a lot of folks, let me know if you feel the same way, just from your observation, and you've done a lot of interviews on folks too, but I feel like folks always just want to grow and grow and grow. And I'm right now, my business, I know how to grow the top line and the bottom line, but I'm not necessarily trying to add 50 new clients. Like, I'm trying to clean up my business, and I'm in a different phase, a different season, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly my point is you know what you want, what winning looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And to win, you need to keep score. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah,
so,
tangible.
In my opinion, you're highly successful then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're doing what you want to do, you're making money, you're providing for your family, you have a profitable business, that's it. That's it.
It's critical.
I think I want to jump to, if it's okay, and then if you want me to say these points and then you ask a different question, fine. But
sure, go ahead.
A couple of things that I've been thinking about as we grow and scale. So, sales in our area, I mean, they're easy to come by. If we have quality guys that can take care of our clients, we can get the sales. The 2 things that I'm thinking about now are branding and then emotional intelligence or relationship skills. I want to do the branding first. Branding, because marketing and sales are always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But the companies that truly scale, the companies that draw top talent, and the companies that are around 10, 15, 20 years down the road are the companies that are branded. And there's a difference. Branding is hard to establish an ROI on.
Mm-hmm.
It is the things that you do in the community that go above and beyond. It is the extra money that you put into nice trucks. It is how you're viewed in your community.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing we're doing is we are truly trying to brand ourselves as a professional service and one of the top in the Kansas City area. And I will tell you, for us, that's our main focus for me, because I want to make sure I communicate this appropriately. We want to make sure that we don't chase short-term sales and profit and don't focus on building our foundation for branding. And some of those things that we've done are go back and replace a few trucks and get brand new trucks that we're leasing, because we want to start branding our team as a certain caliber business. We want to start branding our company as a certain caliber company. So that's one thing we're shifting our focus on. And then the second thing I'm thinking about a lot is just the gray space with culture. So I'm trying to wrap my hands around how can I teach our audience culture. And one thing that I'm coming up with is this idea of the emotional intelligence it takes to run a quality company, and also the tactical skills. And so what I'm thinking about now is explaining to my leadership the fact that to have a good culture environment, you have to care about the other person more than you care about yourself. You have to care about your client more than you care about yourself. And a lot of leaders are turned into managers because they are only thinking on the other hand, the tactical side. What do we have to get done? How can we be more efficient? How can we be more dense? How can we be more profitable? How can we get more money in the door? All those things that I listed are awesome, but it is all tactical skills that are on the one hand, and they live there in the tactical, and occasionally will jump over to the other hand on the emotional side. Where I'm really trying to live is in the relational. Care more for my guys, care more for my clients, build more relationships, and live on the emotional side, and jump to the tactical whenever we need to knock things out and take those action steps.
Sure.
So,
that's huge.
At Exmark, we've poured decades of leading-edge engineering and old-fashioned work ethic into our Laser Z. the pioneering commercial zero-turn rider more landscape pros trust. So now you can experience cut quality, performance, comfort, durability, and reliability beyond your wildest dreams. Stop by your local dealer or visit xmark.com to experience an Xmark Laser Z and the attractive financing offers available now.
Well, I appreciate you opening up and giving some practical, information, because I feel like culture, whether it's just you and a guy, or you and 25 guys, or you and 2,500 people, the culture is the glue. Right. The shared vision, the shared values, the shared, potentially morals, the shared idea of like what you're trying to do. I mean, that's incredibly important. And that's where you go from just a group, right. Or an organization to a team. There's massive differences between that. Like, a group is just a group of people, an organization is a structured group of people. And a team, everybody serves a role. Everybody knows a role. Everybody's covering the guy next to him. There's a mission. There's no, hopefully in a perfect scenario, there's not as much ego, because, one guy, well, I brought in this big account for $100,000 and the other guy brought in an account for $600. Hey, the goal, the vision is to move the company, move the needle forward. Doesn't matter if you're blocking and tackling, you're running the ball, or you're throwing the ball. Everybody's got a role. And so, what have you done? Like, what are you doing personally as the leader of this organization to continue, or this team to continue your guys' success? Because I mean, again, I know that ferociously behind the scenes, you have to be consuming leadership books and leadership programs and sales training, and I'm sure this is stuff that you all think. I mean, your brain probably doesn't turn off, to be honest with you. So is there anything that you've personally done to develop yourself? Was it something that you knew you had to work on for you too, yourself over the last 5 years, or just something that you've been doing the last year or so? I mean, for crying out loud, your podcast is called the Lawn Care's Leader Podcast. So where did you start recognizing all of this?
I would say it was in college, I think. So towards the last half of my basketball career, I kind of started to fizzle out and burn out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And took a couple years there where I didn't know what I wanted to do. Was just kind of having a good time in college, and read a book, and just one of the words that stuck out to me was intentional. And I realized, if I'm going to do anything, make any impact, provide for my family, have a quality life, you have to be intentional in every area of your life. And so that's, I would say, in the 4 categories that I try to, put buckets into each day, that's what I try to be intentional and lean into those things. And I talk a lot about it, but it's faith, it's family, it's fitness, and it's finances. And I try to lean into those 4 categories. And if I don't do one of them for a long period of time, or I'm lacking on one of them, or I don't pay attention to it, I can feel my progress starting to slip. So I would say that's, I always try to be intentional. And so, of course, with intentionality comes the consumption of more education and trying to better yourself. So I listen to audiobooks, I listen to podcasts. Everybody I talk to, I try to gain something from them, because we all experience, even if you make more money than someone, or have a better career, or better family life, better marriage, it doesn't matter. You can gain something from every interaction, and that's what I try to do. I just try to have an overarching theme of being intentional in those 4 categories.
Right. So you're telling me you're not drifting your way to a larger organization. You gotta.
Exactly.
You gotta be intentional. I mean, that's huge. Here's the deal. A lot of young guys ask me for insight and comments and feedback. A lot of young guys listen to the podcast. 16 to 25. I call them kids, but I'm like two, 1 season ahead of them, so they're kids, right? And so,
yeah.
But I always tell them, hey, if your school, whether it's high school or college or whatever you got going on, or there's different, networking organizations and groups around town. If there's 2 skill sets that I could really implore people to hook their caboose up to and learn from at a young age, it's sales skills and leadership skills. Like bar none. Number 1, you got to be a good communicator. It's going to pay massive dividends for you in your life. And then number 2 is leadership. I mean, I don't want my kids to just be a part of something. I hope my kid's the leader of his basketball team, the leader of his class. I hope he's the leader. You know, I'm not putting these expectations on him, but I don't want him to be average, and I don't want him to be a part of an average organization, an average team. Like, let's grow, let's take it to the front. And so,
and I think that all boils down to just being the absolute best you can be, and wherever you're at in life. I was actually talking to my sister about this the other day. You know, you don't know what opportunities are going to come your way, and so the people that get lucky are the people that are the best version of themselves when that opportunity presents itself. And that's all we're trying to do here, because you never know if you're going to be. But what's a leader? A leader is just somebody that has people following them. So your mom is a leader, your grandma is a leader. Almost everybody is leading somebody or influencing somebody. So we're all leaders,
right?
And it goes back to that space that I'm trying to think about this year is emotional versus tactical.
Right.
A leader can either push someone or pull someone. You can push people. That's a leader, but that's that manager that everybody hates.
Right.
A leader who is pulling someone towards a common goal can look back and see that everyone is rowing in the same direction. That's the type of leader that I want to be. Well, I also want to real briefly take 30 seconds and say this to your audience. This is all stuff that we're talking, like this is all quality stuff. I want to make sure people know this. It requires patience too. You know, my wife and I, we struggled and we reinvested every penny. Last year was the first year that we took an owner's distribution. The first 3 years, we were just living off of anything that came in from payments. Our first year, we made $16,000, and that's what we lived off of. My first 4 years, I had to work at Costco. I had to work for a guy that was flipping rental houses. I had to work at Cabela's. I had to work as a FedEx driver in the winter. So this is not it's not just something like,
it's personal. It's real.
There's this notion on Instagram that you can just have a business, and that's not how it is. It is not. It's not easy, and it's something that you have to put 100% of your life and effort into. So, I guess my whole point with it is you must be patient,
right?
Because it's 8 years, and I'm just now seeing the fruits of our labor over an 8-year span to where we're able to finally take some profit out of the company.
Well, dude, no, that's huge. You know, I try to echo that too with, hey, dude, this is my 13th season, you know, but you see the shiny truck, the shiny rig, the shiny this. I go, look, that is after 11, 12 years of grinding. Now, I do say this too with my videos and a lot of other people's info. Hopefully you can condense my 10, 12, 13 years into 4 or 5, years. That's the idea between doing all this content. But again, you're not just going to wake up and have $100,000 rig or, going down the road or, like you said, 15, 20 people working for you and have, $1 million business. Like I think people really underestimate how much work is required. And that's why I always joke, like, you ever watch my YouTube videos? Like, I wear my sunglasses a lot, Britt, because I just have the darkest of circles under my eyes, and the bags under my eyes. And people are like, how do you run a company and grow a YouTube channel? I go, it's really easy to do it when you work 100 hours a week. So exactly. For 4 years, exactly. And people think I make this stuff up. They're like, oh, there's no way. I'm like, look, I'll tell you, I didn't even know. Full circle, I didn't even know who was in the Super Bowl. Like, I didn't even know until I sat down at my mom's. We're doing my lawn agreements with me, my wife, and my mom, mailing out 100 plus, lawn agreements to line up the upcoming season, right? And I sit down on the couch. I swear to God, I go, hey, Mom, who's, we're just hanging out with Mom, but I go, hey, Mom, who's playing? Who's in this thing? And she's like, oh, the 49ers and the Chiefs. I go, cool. I said, I haven't heard one stat, one game, one win, nothing, bro. Because I hustle. And by the way, if you like football, God bless. I'm not getting in your face. I'm just saying it's really tough to know the current events, and grow your business. I always say it's really hard to keep up with everybody else and be a cheerleader for everybody else and grow your own life and your own business. It's really tough to do both. And I think it's really true. I think it's a really practical thing. It's like, and this is, maybe a little bit more on a somber note, but it took Kobe Bryant passed away about a week ago at the time of this recording.
Yep.
And to be totally frank, like, it took something of that magnitude to pierce my filter to get on my radar, because I'm so in the hunt, like, a dog in the hunt don't know he's got fleas. Well, I in all, respect, of course, to Kobe, because I grew up on Kobe, me and my younger brother, and he was the GOAT. But it took something of that magnitude to, like, even get into my ecosystem, because I really protect what I listen to, what I watch, because I'm putting everything into my businesses, like you. I put, my spiritual walk, my faith walk. It's important to me. It's number one. My wife is number two. My business is number three, and we just go. Hey, by the way, you ever hear the motivational quip, or like the analogy? How do you spell leadership? It's EXAMPLE. Like, I love that one. By the way, I didn't want to go. Awesome. I didn't want to go too far with that one, because and I've also heard people say, well, I want to be a leader. I want to lead. And I go, and you hit the nail on the head. A leader is somebody with a following. But I've also heard somebody say that if you want to be the biggest leader, just be the biggest server. Like, everybody thinks they're trying to lead, like it means to be out front. In fact, Jesus came in and he was washing people's feet. He was a server. So I so for real can sniff out somebody who's authentic in 10 seconds, because when you said it's not about me, it's about my family, it's not about me, it's about my organization, it's not about me, it's about my people. In fact, it's not about me, it's about my clients and their experience through our business. That's how I know you're authentic, and that's how I know you're on the right path. And so I'm not giving you attaboys just to give you attaboys, but I'm just telling you, like, I can tell you're a winner, and I really respect you, is what I'm trying to say.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
For real. That's why I wanted to get you on the show. Well,
I would say
go ahead.
Back to your point about being laser focused. That's the reason majority of businesses fail. The stat gets thrown around so much, I can never remember it, which is kind of odd. You would think I would remember it, but it seems like the number's always a little different. But I think it's like 70% of businesses fail within the first 5 years, and then another 50% in the next 5 years. So that's the reason, because it takes a certain level of commitment and laser focused on a goal. And the problem is people set a goal and then they negotiate it because it gets hard.
Right.
Well,
right.
The ones that don't
Truth bombs.
The ones that don't lose figure out a way to get around those hurdles. They say, this is my goal. This is what I want for my life, for my family, and I'm not going to negotiate it. I don't care what roadblock comes in the way. I don't care how many times I fail. I'm going to get there. And let's talk football. You weren't watching, but the Chiefs were down in the first playoff game.
Okay.
I think it was 21. They were down 21 in the first quarter.
Wow.
Well, we were up. Okay, so any normal person is going to have somewhat of an emotional and physical response to that. But it's the ones who are great who can overcome that. And our leader, Andy Reid, is unscathed. Like, when we're up 30, same face. Down 30, same face. The dude is just steady. I mean, he's like an oak. He can't be moved. Patrick Mahomes, same thing. And so it's nice to witness greatness. We were up 24-21 at half. And so Gary Vee says this all the time, but it doesn't matter who's winning at halftime. It matters at the end of the game, and this is a long game. So that's my point, is set your goals, know what you want, what kind of lifestyle you want, and then don't negotiate off of that. And that's where greatness is found, is when you get punched in the mouth, when you have roadblocks, when things are rough, can you get back up and keep fighting? And that's why so many businesses fail, because most people can't. They want the comfort of going to a steady job. They want the security. They want the fear gone. And it's the ones who can set a goal and not negotiate off of that win.
Dude, clutch. I mean, again, like, I know this sounds like kind of rah-rah, but at the same point, it's so based in truth. This is the meat. This is stuff that I had to learn for a decade, reading self-help books. I mean, Britt, let me ask you this. And I'm sure this is probably some low-hanging fruit, really simple question, like no right or wrong answer. But, in case people want to go down this rabbit hole of leadership and communication and being a better person, is there anything that you draw inspiration from, like podcasts or books, or, like John Maxwell? This is who I'm coming to mind with, anybody that you can give some good tips or suggestions to that have, made an impact on your life in the last decade?
Yeah. When we were first starting off, Dave Ramsey, because I had a lot of student debt,
Mm-hmm.
so I was all gung ho about getting out of personal debt.
Okay.
And then he is one of the most intentional people that you'll ever listen to. So again, the overarching thing of being intentional. And then I still try to read my Bible daily, do my devotion.
Mm-hmm.
But off of that, I listen to a podcast by the Benham brothers, and they give you insights into the Bible that are bar none the best I've ever heard for our industry, because they'll talk about biblical truths, and then they'll give you business tips and truths to live by off of that. So if anybody hasn't listened to that, go listen to the Benham brothers podcast. It's quick. They're like 8 to 15-minute devotionals that are rooted in scripture and have a lot of good business content off of that. And then honestly, man, I do a ton of audiobooks. This winter I went on a biography binge. I just listened to some of the originals, like John D. Rockefeller, Henry Ford, just trying to figure out, how did these guys think? I mean, those guys went through a lot. Everybody.
Oh yeah.
Everybody thinks that those guys are just, wealthy, crooked people, and that's not it at all. Those guys, that they made their way to the top for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. I'm done with the biography binge. I can't listen to another biography. So now I just do an onslaught of podcasts. I'll do the Gary V podcast. I listen to Paul's podcast. I do Entree Leadership podcast. And then the Benham Brothers podcast.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. I just like giving people some practical, like you said, breadcrumbs that they can listen to. I mean, for crying out loud, we're on our lawnmowers and fertilizer, spray rigs 8 hours a day, right? Like
exactly.
Let's put garbage in, garbage out. Well, let's put some good info in and have some good things come out.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this as we maybe wrap up the last 10, 15 minutes here. And by the way, dude, super appreciate you being on the podcast. This has been just such a blessing. We were both joking how fast an hour goes when you're having fun on a podcast. Which I guess
thanks for having me.
Dude, for sure. Well, let me parlay it to you and volley this to you, because you are doing something very unique, which is you have a podcast of your own, and I know you're involved in social media. It'd be a sin to be this far through the podcast and not, one of the jokingly reasons I wanted to get you on the podcast was help promote your podcast, because I don't think there's anything wrong with putting a bunch of good stuff in your brain all day, for crying out loud. Don't listen to the stupid disc jockey making $28,000 a year telling you to buy Yeezys, for that's just there's just so much. I mean, it's just, you just get sold all day. So any which way, where did this whole podcast come from? Maybe let folks know what it is. No reason to not have a shameful plug here. You should be very proud of what you got going on. So why don't you take a few minutes, let everybody know about the Lawn Care Leaders podcast and maybe that origin story, if you will.
Yeah. Okay. So, I am the host of that show. We started that about a year and a half ago, I believe.
Okay.
And I initially started it because I love twofold. I love talking about this kind of stuff, as I hope you can gather from my energy level. And I'm always learning. I'm always craving this content. So I started that because I like to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And selfishly, I wanted to bring guests on that I could learn from. The next reason was I wanted to add value to people that were in my same position.
Sure.
In the Kansas City area, I would keep going to these events, keep going to these continuing education classes, and I would ask people, "Hey, where's the small business talk on how to do this?"
Right.
And people would look at me like, "What?"
Right.
And, it was all just centered around the technical skills in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
Which, side note, I think the things like the GIE Expo and stuff like that eventually are going to make a huge shift from equipment and technical skills to more and more leadership, social media, business management type content.
Sure. Is that something you'd like to see happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll fizzle out in 10 years if they don't. Because there's always going to be equipment innovations. There's always going to be efficiencies around that, but that's not what's holding people back. It's not not a new driver that's keeping a guy from hitting it down the fairway.
Mm-hmm.
It's the proper way to do it. And so we need more outlets when we go to places like that. So anyways, that was the impetus for the podcast.
Yeah.
I didn't have the info, and so I wanted to talk to more people that were 2 years, 5 years, 10 years ahead of where I was, and then also just document that so I could go back and listen to it. I enjoy talking about it, and then hopefully others can learn from it as well.
Dude, for sure. Well, I mean, like I said, if you got 8 hours a day, I mean, if you listen to my podcast and your podcast and, great friends of the show, Paul Jameson with the Green Industry podcast, Julia with the Lawn Care Business Success podcast, great dudes. Great. I mean, last I looked, Julia's got like 250 episodes or something, and Paul's probably cracking 100 already, and I think you're probably at around 100, something like that. It's just crazy how much content you can consume and still not even be till lunchtime, and so I really appreciate the fact that you're putting this out. And you know what? Not every podcast is going to be for everybody. Not every interview is going to relate to everybody. I always say you got to find those gems out there. I listen to everything just because even if I can get one nugget, Britt, I'm sure you operate that same way. Even if I can get one tip, one nuance, one little tip that has helped them, that I can personalize it and take it back to my business. It could save me tons of money. It could make me tons of money. It could just propel me. And again, you don't know what you don't know. So kind of one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast too was I wanted to hear the backstory. I wanted to hear stuff that I can't really put on YouTube because it's just not the medium for it, I guess is what I'd say. And I also owe a lot to social media, so I want to pour back into folks, the best way that I can. Okay, so where do you see the podcast over the next 6 months, and what else you got going on with it, and what else can folks expect, or what's some of the topics that you like to talk about as well while we're at it?
Yeah, awesome, man. So honestly, I do any topic that comes through my Instagram feed, and I ask people, I say, hey, if we haven't addressed something, DM me. And I truly look at those DMs, I write them down, and I find somebody who is winning in that space. So we address issues that our listeners are going through. I address issues that I'm going through, and then we also document episodes just throughout our season.
Cool.
So honestly, it's very, very relevant to what's going on in my business, and then also, our most avid listeners, because they'll DM me and be like, hey, you never talk about irrigation. I'm like, well, because I don't do irrigation. I'll get an irrigation guy on.
Amen.
So that's where we're going with it. I would say like the 1 to 2 year outlook is I'm going to continue to try to scale the podcast, reach more listeners, and I want to develop relationships with people nationwide, because when we're going to start to add locations here in the next 5 years. And so I think the more networking we can do through the podcast and actually develop those relationships and do on-site visits, we'll be able to capitalize and actually have a feel for the economy before we just jump into a business acquisition. So that's cool. one thing I'm thinking about, just selfishly for Green again, how I can monetize it. And then we're going to also be coming out with, I see the Launchpreneur Academy, obviously their sponsor, not something like that, but a consultation type thing. So
cool.
As we grow and scale, people that are going through the same pain points, we're going to have a consultation where we do on-site visits with business owners at a certain junction. You have to be between this and this many accounts, and that way we know we can add value to you.
Cool. No, dude, that's huge. Again, it's just another great way for you to network, but number two, save people's time, energy, frustration, growing pains, right? Again, I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with Corey. He was just he was being real, like just totally transparent. He's like, dude, there's this and that, and we did this and that didn't work at all, but we saw the guy in the next market overdo it, and that was a whole huge debacle, and then we got rid of that service or whatever, and So I think it'll be a tremendous asset, Well, let's do this. Two things. Let's wrap up really simple. Believe it or not, we're already pretty much at an hour. Number one, if you can plug your socials, let folks know where they can find you if they want to go down the Britt Dowd rabbit hole, which I implore people to do. And then just maybe before that, open mic. Any maybe pearls of wisdom or final thoughts that you want to give to anybody who's maybe looking to scale, maybe looking to grow. Maybe they're not that first year guy, but they're maybe in that growth focused mode that you're in right now, and things are just going 100 miles an hour. Any parting wisdom that you think that you could leave a couple folks as we wrap up the podcast?
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, thank you for letting me do a little plug here. I mean, we can be found at Green Again Lawn on Instagram and at Lawn Care Leaders Podcast on Instagram. You can also find us by searching both of those names on Facebook, and then at BDowd32. I'm not as active on Twitter, but I'm there at that handle at BDowd32, and you can message me there. As far as parting words, I would say that if you're trying to grow and scale, you need to make sure that two things. One, you're caring about others more than you care about yourself. And in the early stages, you add as much value as possible to that client. Because I mean, that's where all of the opportunity is. You can't overlook the sales. I mean, you can't look into sales and overlook the value that you're adding to your current client. You're at a vulnerable stage, so you need to maintain what you have, and enjoy that process, and care about others more than you care about yourself. And in any situation, that's gonna put you ahead, I think.
I love it. So build clients, not just customers, right? I've heard people say customer is a one-time sale. Clients are people that buy from you for a decade, right? And I think that's what you guys are trying to accomplish with your company. And I just the writing's on the wall, man. I think you guys are gonna just crush it this year as we go into 2020. I really appreciate it, man. I really appreciate you taking time to be on the podcast. And for all of you guys that have been listening in and enjoy Britt's story, for real. After you're done with this, look down at your phone, hit the purple button, subscribe if you haven't, hit 5-star if you haven't. We really appreciate that. But then head over to his podcast. I think you guys were, my friend Mike Bedell, he's got an episode on there that I know was just a really fun conversation. There's, again, I think 60, 70, 80, maybe 100 episodes by the time this episode comes out. So flood your brain with good stuff. And like I said, Britt he's a leader in the industry. He's grown his company. He's taken it to the front. And I think you guys could just really learn from somebody who's in the hunt, as they grow their company. So Britt, appreciate you, brother. Big time, man. This was really fun. I really appreciate you jumping on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Thanks for your time. Appreciate the shout outs, and to tie in the last two comments, we always preach to our guys about adding value, and everything is do more than you get paid for, and it's always harder to fire somebody you're friends with. If you keep both of those things in mind, it doesn't matter what level company you have, you'll be all right.
Cool. I love it, brother. All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap this one up. Again, if you guys haven't hit 5 stars on the review and leave us a quick comment, please do so. It really helps the podcast get serviced and all that fun stuff. But guys, that's it for this episode of Fullerton Unfiltered. We look forward to catching up with you guys on the next one.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.